welcome back to the Studio Shangri-La podcast. And today's episode is called Philosophy plus Genetics, the Inheritance of Memes. So both of those words in the subtitle are very strong. Inheritance is, of course, a genetic word and a familial word. And meme is, of course, a modern word, revamped. The original use of the word meme, it's from the Greek, like a lot of words. And I believe the pronunciation is mimema, which means imitation of. Of course, the modern usage has come to be quite comical. You might think of grumpy cat when you hear the modern English word meme, among other many goofy representations. Goofy and enjoyable. So when it comes to the use of the word mimema, or the shortening to meme, in the evolutionary sense, this was introduced by Richard Dawkins, I believe, in the 70s, in the book The Selfish Gene. And not necessarily originating with him, but the idea behind that usage is that ideas and behaviors were passed along from generation to generation, like genetic traits. Despite my use of the word inheritance, I'm not saying that they're literally passed along during the division of chromosomes, but that the behaviors and characteristics of one's family or surroundings, in other words, the environment, has a great influence on the personality and behaviors of a person. Of course, in recent times, and especially with delving into further understanding of the vastness of the genome, there's been a broadening of understanding of how things could be not only passed along like this, but how they can be altered and changed, and how they're not necessarily set in stone. That even though some patterns of behaviors and beliefs, even though they may be deeply ingrained by repetition, they can still be changed and updated. That old versions of memes can be upgraded and updated to new versions of memes that work better and that are more highly functional and pleasing to whatever individual a very basic example is if you want to change the habits of your day, your daily pattern. Now, that can be challenging, but you know that it is possible with some focus and determination. You can change the formation to new habits, although it may be difficult. Now, personality traits and influence of environment, it really is more difficult to dig deep and evolve those memes. But of course, it is doable. And there might be a great deal of deliberateness and strategizing that has to go into this. I'm exploring this in my own life, and it's an intersection of biology and philosophy that interests me greatly. In the intersection of scientific understanding and the day-to-day application in one's life. A newer, modernized understanding of genetics has unveiled concepts like epigenetics, quite simply that circumstances and environmental factors can alter or activate certain genes. I think this makes really good sense, of course, that an individual from generation to generation is going to experience a different set of circumstances. They may have a genetic mold from which to work, but that, once again, that is not set in stone. And there's really unlimited room for variation and upgrade depending on what the individual is willing to branch out and do. Now, I'm not saying that this is easy by any stretch, but that it is possible for an individual or individuals, and even then collectively as a group or society, to begin breaking the mold, to update the perhaps outdated old memes or ideas for newer, more productive memes that lead to a better environment or society and allow for positive or constructive collective evolution. And I love talking about this because it brings me a sense of optimism. And now I should give credit to the inspiration, the biggest inspiration for today's episode, and that is the book Bioinformatics, Genomics, and Proteomics, Getting the Big Picture by Anne Finney-Battiza, PhD. This is a relatively short textbook from 2006, and I got it from the MIT book bin. It was retired from a library, I imagine, for just being somewhat dated and not representing the rapidly evolving field and subfields of genetics. However, it does present a lot of interesting ideas and information, including the idea, this is a little repetitive, idea of memes as something possibly genetic. Ideas or firmly ingrained beliefs that get passed along like genetic traits. For example, like deeply held religious beliefs. There's that meme of duality, the classic memes of duality. Heaven and hell, life and death, even the system of timekeeping that we currently use. And I would say that these are somewhat deeply ingrained memes or ideas in very broad categories, and of course these vary from culture to culture. Yet, are they the be-all, end-all of knowledge? No, of course not. Otherwise, we would stop learning and we would stop evolving. There clearly come times when the old memes either needed to be put in the trash bin, so to speak, or updated. There are clearly times for that. And here's an example of something that needs to get updated, large ideas that need to get updated, and that is the manner of living on planet Earth, for example. Generating trash, such as plastic, which doesn't really or hasn't really broken down all that well. Now, that's a meme or way of life that needs to get updated, possibly trashed and replaced, so that there is a more sustainable way of living moving forward into the future. And as I mentioned before, sometimes it can be very difficult, if not painstaking, to update a way of life that's been passed through a bunch of generations. It requires new strategies, new systems, new habit formation, new behaviors. So, in returning to genetics, of course, there's more to be learned there, and from psychological studies about how to best accomplish this. And of course, the more you know about something, the more aware you are about something, the more likely you can make a strategy and make a change, or at least try to do so. In the book I mentioned to you, it's about bioinformatics, which is using biological data for analysis. So, using the newly acquired data and knowledge to synthesize some useful results. And this can be done both in the scientific or biological realm, and thusly, in my opinion, in the philosophical and way of life realm. The physical and the metaphysical, the directly seen and the unseen. So, returning back to the inheritance of memes, I can think of examples of ideas that have benefited me in my life that I've picked up through my environmental experience. And I can think of some ideas that haven't benefited me so much, or that have been a detriment, and some things that I want to capitalize on, so to speak, or enhance, and other things that I want to steer away from. And on a personal level, it can be overwhelming to look at these things sometimes. Even on a societal level, it could be overwhelming to look at these things sometimes. But the biology and the sciences offer an avenue of analysis and somewhat of even detachment in helping to solve these great issues, and to do so, I guess, ideally with an appreciative understanding that there's so much more knowledge that we're coming into in understanding the human genome, to understanding the vastness of our biology in relation to making room for increasing knowledge and new memes. What are the new memes going to be that benefit our life? And not like Grumpy Cat, although that is funny, but the memes, almost as if they were part of the chromosome. And what is that transformation or mutation that we want to have occur for the better? Very interesting stuff, of course, in my opinion. And whoever is out there listening, I hope you enjoy the topics of the Studio Shangri-La podcast. There's more writings on the website studio-shangri-la.com, and although I haven't really delved into it as much, I am open to guests and topics of arts and sciences, society and culture, and, of course, philosophy.